Come on.
Magandang araw po sa aking mga kasamahan sa Kilusang Kooperatiba. As promised na ang inyong boses ay pakikinggan at marami po ang nagre-request na mapakinggan ulit ang Regulatory Relief on General Assembly 2021 dahil sa mga hindi nakapakinig at hindi naka-attend ng General Assembly at ang iba naman ay hindi nakuha at nakapag-note ng mahahalagang provision sa circular na ito, ay minabuti ko pong ibalik ang presentation ni Atty. Beth para po sa inyong kapakinabangan. So ibabalik ko po ang ating Legal and Registration Department Director na si Atty. Beth Batonan.
I know that everyone is waiting for the release of the guidelines governing the General Assembly meeting for the calendar year 2021. Maraming nagtatanong, ano nga ba ang guidelines ng CDA pagdating sa pagkandak ng General Assembly meeting para sa taong ito. So, we know very well that under Article 34 of RA 9520, the cooperatives are mandated to conduct their annual General Assembly meeting. But because of the situation, our situation right now, the pandemic, we may not be able to conduct our General Assembly meeting in a manner as provided in our bylaws. Yeah, we cannot, you cannot conduct your General Assembly meeting in accordance or in a manner that is provided in your bylaws. That's the reason why the CDA Board of Directors of the CDA issued the decided for the granting of regulatory relief in the conduct of General Assembly meeting for this year. So they came up with CDA MC number 2021-03 governing the conduct of the General Assembly meeting and at the same time granting regulatory relief. So this was approved last February 3 and we filed it with the owner February 9. So ano ang laman nitong ating general circular? Okay. Under these guidelines, the conduct of the 2021 General Assembly, the cooperative has the option to proceed with the conduct of the regular or annual General Assembly meeting or cancel the regular JA meeting. Of course, subject to the guidelines which I will be discussing in a little while. Okay? So, punta tayo sa first. Kung ang kooperatiba opted to proceed with the conduct of their 2021 regular annual General Assembly meeting, you can conduct anytime, provided it's not later, it must be conducted not later than September 30, 2021. Ibig sabihin po dito, not necessarily that you conduct it on that date which is provided in your bylaws, hindi na kailangan yung time. You can conduct it anytime, but not later than September 2021. So yun po yung isang regulatory. Okay. The guidelines depends on the community quarantine. Alam natin nung last year, December 14, the IATF issued resolution governing also the community quarantine. So we have the GCQ and MGCQ. Under the resolution, if the area is under GCQ, physical or face-to-face mass gathering is prohibited. That's why under these guidelines, if the area of operation of the cooperative is under GCQ, physical or face-to-face is prohibited. Hindi po pwedeng mag-conduct ng JA pagka po under GCQ. What is allowed only is the conduct through video conferencing. Okay. So conduct through video conferencing lang po. Last year we have issued 2020-10 where 2020-10, where it governs the conduct of the manner of conducting the video conferencing. Okay. Another thing here is that under video conferencing, wala na pong limit. Wala na pong limit as long as your subscription or the cooperative existing subscription to that video conferencing platform can accommodate the number of the members who will participate in the said meeting. Next. So another relief granted under these guidelines is that kahit wala po sa provisions ng inyong bylaws, you may conduct the GE meeting either simultaneously or sequentially. Pag sabi natin, pag simultaneously, meeting are held on the same day. Pagka sequentially, yung meetings are held for a certain number of days and adjournment will be on the last day. So sequentially, pwedeng ilang araw po ito. Pag sinabi nating next, pag sinabi nating sequentially, okay, pagka sinabi nating pagka sequential, if the cooperative opted to conduct the JA meeting sequentially, please take note that the maximum number of days to conduct such meeting is 60 days. It shall not exceed 60 days from the opening of the meeting up to its adjournment. So, ano-ano yung mga requirements na kailangan po tayong mag-submit ng requirements sa CDA to inform the Cooperative Development Authority that you are conducting or you want to proceed with the conduct of your JA meeting. So meron po tayong dalawang requirements. Number one po is a letter signed by the chairperson and or the general manager informing the authority that it will conduct the JA meetings through video conferencing. Paki-take note po ito, yung mga statement doon, yung dates of the general dates of the meeting, the total number of members, the quorum requirement, agenda in the statement confirming that the items under number 11 of the CDA Memorandum Circular 2020-10 has taken into consideration. Sabi ko kanina, yung 2020-10 po, paki-revisit po yun kasi nakalagay po doon kung ano-ano yung mga dapat ninyong tandaan pagdating sa video conferencing. Like for example, the manner of the notice, the requirement of notice, quorum, and the manner of conducting such a video conferencing. Please take note also that you have to adopt a policy on how to conduct video conferencing. This requirement shall be submitted to the CDA regional office having jurisdiction over the cooperative at least 10 days prior to the conduct of the GA meeting. Please take note of the date. So at least 10 days prior to the conduct of the meeting, you have to submit these requirements to the CDA regional office. Okay, punta naman tayo sa mga areas na under MGCQ. Okay. Sa IATF resolution, the allow the mass gatherings. Mass gatherings are allowed subject to limitation. So yung limit po under the IATF resolution is at least 50% of the venue or seating capacity. So doon din po sa ating guidelines, you can conduct under if the area is under MGCQ, you can conduct it either physical, face-to-face, or video conferencing, or combination. Combination ng video conferencing and face-to-face. May mga nagtanong, pwede pa daw na mag-face-to-face sila, tapos naka-live sa Facebook. Pwede pa daw ba yun? Hindi po. Because sa Facebook po, hindi po makakapag-participate yung ating mga members. So, kailangan pong platform siya like Zoom, Google, and so forth. Okay. Again, pareho din po yan. Isang relief is you can conduct it simultaneously or sequentially. Yung pag sequential, 60 days din po. Paki-take note of the 60-day period. Requirements. Same requirements po siya meron lang po yung ating letter, ay doon sa letter po natin, dapat nakalagay po doon kung ano yung, kung saan yung venue at saka yung mga dates ng General Assembly meeting. Again, dapat po ito ay mai-submit sa ating CDA Regional Office at least 10 days prior to the conduct of the JA meeting. Okay. Paano naman yung ating election rules and guidelines? Alam po natin na yung ating election rules and guidelines, yung mga existing ngayon, if we want to avail of this regulatory relief, iba po yung nasa kanilang election rules and guidelines. So under these guidelines, you have to amend your election rules and guidelines to include the manner of casting the members' votes, the procedures for canvassing of votes and declaration of winners, and provisions on ensuring the security, integrity of the votes cast prior to the canvassing and canvassing of votes and declaration of winners. Yung election rules and guidelines kasi natin, if approved this year, dapat po ma-implement siya the following year. Pero this is one of the relief. You have to approve, the General Assembly must approve first the election rules and guidelines. If approved, then you can immediately implement it, the right there and there. So, kailangan muna siyang i-approve and then pwede nyo na pong i-implement kaagad-agad. Unlike po yung sa ating normal situation, yung mga ating ina-approve na election rules and guidelines ay next year pa po siya i-implement. Okay? So, sabi ko kanina, before na ma-implement yan, kailangan muna, parang dapat ma-approve muna ng General Assembly yan bago nyo siya i-implement. So, if you are conducting your GA meeting and election in one day, the proposed amendment shall first be presented and discussed to the General Assembly for approval in the first part of the actual meeting. So, pagka na-approve na yan, then the amendment shall take effect immediately and may be used during the second part of the activity. Pag the cooperatives opted to conduct their meeting sequentially, ibig sabihin, maraming dates yan, it shall first present to every group of the proposed amendment to the election rules and guidelines, stating the manner of voting of the members, and shall hold the conduct of elections of officers on a separate day, adopting the approved amended guidelines. So, kailangan mo nang ma-approve lahat ng group bago kayo mag-conduct ng election. In no case, however, shall the amendments to the election rules and guidelines include changes which are already specifically provided for in the bylaws and for which the proper amendment process is required. So, anong ibig sabihin nito? Ang regulatory relief lang po natin covers the manner of conducting the election. Pero hindi po covered yung ibang provisions. Like for example, maglalagay kayo ng disqualification or mga qualification, mag-a-amend kayo ng disqualification or qualifications of officers, ay hindi po yon sakop ng ating regulatory relief. Kung i-amend yung man yan, the implementation would be next year. Okay. Punta naman tayo sa cooperatives who opted to cancel or who opt to cancel their 2021 regular or annual General Assembly meeting. May mga nagtanong na member, bago nitong bago na issue itong circular, nagtatanong daw kasi sabi daw ng mga board ay ika-cancel. So hindi po ako sumagot kasi wala pang MC. Pero sa MC na ito, pwede po silang mag-cancel ng kanilang regular or annual JA meeting this year. Okay, so ano po yung requirements? Of course, hindi lang po basta i-cancel yan, may mga requirements po yan. And please take note, subject po ito sa approval ng CDA. Unlike po doon sa pag-proceed, you just inform us, but ensure the safety protocols and of course the requirements. Pero pagdating po dito sa cancellation, may approval po ang CDA. So ano-ano yung mga requirements? You have to submit a letter signed by the chairperson or the chief executive officer of the cooperative supported by a duly notarized board resolution requesting for the approval of the decision to cancel the conduct of its annual JA meeting, of course, setting forth the reasons for its non-holding. So dapat meron po tayong justification bakit natin ika-cancel yung ating JA meeting. Pangalawang requirements, proof of due notice to its members on the cancellation of its JA meeting, stating therein the reasons therefore for which must be made at least 15 days prior to the sending of the letter request to the authority for the cancellation of the meeting. So ibig sabihin, bago po kayo mag-submit, 15 days, at least 15 days bago kayo mag-submit, i-notify nyo po yung inyong mga members of your plan to cancel the JA meeting. So yung proof of notice na yun po, yung isasama nyo doon sa submission sa CDA. Okay? Sabi ko kanina, this is subject to the approval of the CDA Regional Office. So the CDA shall act on the request within 10 days from receipt. Otherwise, the same shall be deemed approved. Okay. Paano naman yung ating budget at saka yung mga incumbent na officers? Pag na-cancel yung ating General Assembly, the same lang po siya doon sa ating last year na guidelines. They will operate on the same budget with that of 2020. So ibig sabihin, kung ang budget yun dahil hindi kayo nag-conduct nung last year, na yung budget yun ng 2019, hanggang ngayon, ayun pa rin yung iyong gagamitin. How about the incumbent officers? So yung mga incumbent officers shall serve on a holdover capacity notwithstanding any provisions on disqualification in their bylaws until the conduct of the next regular JA meeting and election of officers. Okay, so ang ibig pong sabihin nito, kung yung mga officers ay pasok na sa disqualification, for example sa age, no? Ang inyong qualification ay hanggang 70-year-old lang, hindi siya mag-exceed ng 70-year-old, not more than 70-year-old. Tapos ngayong taon, magsi-71 siya, so parang disqualified siya. Hindi po, he still serve on a holdover capacity. Yun po yung ibig sabihin nun. Notwithstanding any provision of disqualification. Okay, so yun po yung sa ating cancel or proceed. Now, I will present to you some of the provisions under the guidelines. So yung alam po natin na mga cooperatives already conducted their regular or annual General Assembly meetings in accordance with their bylaws. So you just, before the effectivity of this Memorandum Circular, you just inform us not later than March 31 through a letter signed by the chairperson and manager. So yung mga nakapag-conduct na, mag-submit lang po kayo, inform lang po ang ating office na kayo yung nakapag-conduct na. Okay? Another is cooperatives who need to hold JE meetings for the purpose of amending their articles of cooperation and bylaws to comply with regulations but are unable to do so due to restriction imposed may be allowed to hold through referendum, no? Ibig sabihin po sa ating sa amendment, 'di ba, kailangan 'yun i-approve ng ating General Assembly, but because you cannot hold your General Assembly meeting and nagpa-cancel kayo at na-approve naman ng ating CDA, at gusto nyo, kailangan meron kayong i-amend na provisions ng inyong articles of cooperation. Like for example, mag-i-end na yung term nyo, kailangan i-amend yan. Or may mga requirements ng other government agencies at kailangan yung i-amend yan. Pero hindi kayo makapag-conduct because of the restriction, pwede po yan through referendum, yung approval through referendum. So ano bang ibig sabihin ng referendum? Board resolution, copy of a board resolution shall be passed to the members and then the members just affix their signature in confirmation to the board resolution. So yun po, but you have, hindi lang po basta gagawin nyo yan, you have to submit first a letter request signed by the chairperson or the chief executive officer that you will be conducting, you will amend your bylaws or your articles through referendum, and this is subject to the approval of the authority. So yung amendment natin ay subject to approval. Dalawa yung subject to approval of authority natin so far, is the cancellation and of course this amendment. Okay. Kanina, yung ating diniscuss is the conduct of the annual General Assembly meeting or the regular General Assembly meeting. What about the special General Assembly meeting? Sabi, you can conduct also your special General Assembly meeting, however, subject to the guidelines of the IETF. Kung sinabi nila lang hindi pwede ang face-to-face, hindi po kayo dapat mag face-to-face meeting. And then, of course, you have to observe and comply with the minimum public health protocols during the conduct of this meeting. So, I think, okay, may sanction. Ito yung importante pala. Sanction, I will read it. Failure or non-compliance with any of the above conditions by cooperative as reported by a member or a third party, as well as non-submission of any of the requirements enumerated herein shall be a ground for disqualification to run for re-election for the next 2 succeeding elections, of course, after due process of law, for the hearing members of the board of directors in different committees to any of the positions in the cooperative. So please take note of the dates, please take note of the requirements, and of course, yung protocols natin. So I think that would be all for the guidelines governing or granting the relief of regulatory relief for the conduct of JE meeting. Maraming salamat po and keep safe.
The query raised by one of our viewers, and this pertains some clarifications on CDA MC 2021-03 about regulatory relief. So the question goes like this. So I guess this is addressed to Attorney Beth. If we are to do the General Assembly sequentially from March 20 to April 24 for the approval of amendment and election guide, how many days po kaya pwede gawin yung election of officers, ma'am, from April 25?
Yes, good morning again. Yung 60-day period po covers the from the opening to its adjournment. So as long as within the 60-day period, nasa inyo po. Basta hindi siya lalampas ng 60 days. So from opening to adjournment, of course, the election includes the process. So before the adjournment, dapat makapag-elect kayo. Tapos it is within the 60-day period.
This is also addressed to the regulatory relief memorandum circular. Ano po ba ang mga pwedeng justifications to cancel the annual General Assembly?
Maraming justifications, no? Depende yan po kung ano yung mga rason ninyo. Like for example lang, isa lang na example is that well, kahit nasa LGCQ kayo, pero yung anyong local LGU nyo doon ay talagang ayaw payagan kayong mag-conduct ng face-to-face, pwedeng justification yon. Pero depende po sa inyo. Kasi basta isulat nyo po, hindi nyo talaga kayang makapag-conduct, isulat nyo po sa ating regional director.
How can our Articles of Cooperation and Bylaws amendment be done through referendum?
Sinabi ko kanina, kasi sa ating amendment of ACDL, kailangan yan ma-approve through a General Assembly meeting for that purpose. Pero dito po ngayon, hindi na kailangan mag-meeting para i-approve yung ating amendment. Pwede po yan i-distribute or i-send na lang sa inyo yung resolution, and then you will affix your signature confirming the proposal or the proposed amendment. So, ganun lang po siya. Hindi na kailangan kayong mag-meeting.
So let's move on to the next query. would like to know the composition of the technical working group that organized the General Assembly. Would also like to ask who is duly authorized to call assemblies for clusters such as this and status of other clusters. Nakapag-JA na po ba sila? So I guess there are some, let's fill in na lang what the intent, no, of the question. But again, would like to know the composition of the technical working group that organized the General Assembly. Would also like to ask who is duly authorized to call assemblies for clusters such as this and status of other clusters. At nakapag-General Assembly na po ba sila? Yes, asik lang.
Yeah. Actually, ito yung pinakauna. Tayo sa cluster natin, tayo po ang nauuna at tayo ay susundan ng ibang cluster. Ang magdidetermine nito ay ang cluster head. Ang technical person, humugot tayo sa operations muna kasi while waiting doon sa approval ng OPCCB para sa mga technical staff ng cluster head, so humugot muna tayo doon sa mga tao sa operations ng CDA para mabuo ito. Pero sa tanong ninyo, tayo po ang pinakauna. We will lead the rest of the clusters head. Susunod na po sila sa atin. Basta po tayo ang nauna, susundan nila tayo at tayo naman dahil tapos na, tutulong din tayo sa kanila para makapagdaos din po sila ng General Assembly.
So this time, another issue raised. If virtual or digital po ang General Assembly, kailangan po ba na lahat ng a-attend na member ay may kanya-kanyang Zoom account or personal computer or cellphone, or pwede po na umattend, for example, sa isang Zoom account screen, 5 to 10 persons ang a-attend? Thank you.
I think pwede yan sa ating video conferencing provided yung ating safety protocol. Baka mamaya considered mass gatherings na yung inyong ginawa. So pwede po yun. Oo, pero lesser number of participants.
Okay, so ang tanong ay kung ang kanilang JA meeting doon sa kanilang bylaws ay nasa 3rd Sunday of March. Ngayon, ang tanong niya, pwede ba nilang i-extend? Opo. Yun po sa ating guidelines, isa po yun sa regulatory relief na you can conduct anytime, not necessarily doon sa nakalagay sa inyong bylaws, at pwedeng i-conduct nyo sequentially. So, pwedeng how many days po yun. So, pwede po nyo, kahit hindi na kailangan mag-amend sa bylaws, pwede nyo na pong i-implement or pwede na po kayong mag-conduct ng more than one day ngayong 2021. Okay, so ang tanong ay kung paano i-cast yung votes via Zoom. Sa ating mga video conferencing platforms, may mga applications doon kung paano yung pag-vote. So, pwede din naman hindi sa Zoom, meron din tayong other applications na pwedeng gamitin like Google Form and others. So, pwedeng mag-consult lang tayo sa ating MIS or kung sino yung mga expert para tulungan tayo kung paano natin i-conduct yung election natin via video conferencing.
Yan po ang kabuuan ng Regulatory Relief on General Assembly for 2021. Naway makatulong ng malaki sa inyo at sa mga kasamahan at kung paano magkakaroon at mairaos ang ating General Assembly sa 2021. Nasa sa inyo po ang options. Marami pong sinasabi doon na pwede nyo maging options. Sana ay makatulong ng malaki. At para po sa mga hindi pa nag-subscribe, please subscribe po, like, and share my YouTube channel para po mas marami ang makakaalam sa mga ginagawa ng CDA at ng Kilusang Kooperatiba. Again, maraming salamat po sa inyo at mabuhay ang Kilusang Kooperatiba.